Hello, this is Vox Evening News. I'm Kesha Gatari. Well, before we start, let's take a look at our headlines tonight. African leaders meet in Ethiopia for the 28th African Union Summit. West African powers officially launched the G5 Sahel forces. And the EU observer mission to Kenya warns against election violence. African powers launched a new multinational military force in the Sahel on Sunday. During Sunday's summit, leaders of the G5 Sahel bloc, which is Mali, Mauritania, Burkina Faso, Niger and Chad, formally established the new force, which will operate in coordination with French troops and MINUSMA, the UN peacekeeping mission in Mali. Sunday's summit marked a step forward in the plan to set up the G5 Sahel force. It still faces a number of obstacles, however, mainly financial. A total budget of €423 million is needed to get it up and running. So far, the EU has pledged around €50 million, and France has promised to contribute €8 million by the end of this year. Each of the G5 Sahel members have also promised to contribute €10 million for the force.
Avec cette mobilisation au niveau de l'Europe et au niveau du monde,
with this mobilization from Europe and from the rest of the world, we will surely have more ideas of alternative financing that may allow us to go further in the mission to make this G5 Sahel, at least its joint force, an efficient regional component to fight terrorism.
Une initiative spécifique.
€200 million will be allocated for a specific initiative for G5 Sahel countries. This initiative will bring additional resources, a subsidy for transborder initiatives centered around crisis zones, fast impact projects, as well as short and long-term actions.
Suspected Boko Haram militants killed 9 people and abducted dozens more in an attack on Sunday night in southern Niger. According to local reports, the attackers arrived in the village of Naguela on camels at around 9 p.m. local time in the evening and abducted 30 people. The African Union Summit kicked off on Monday with the aim of shining a spotlight on youth investment and looking into conflict and crises affecting the continent. During discussions, Djibouti has relayed its wish for the African Union to deploy observers along the disputed border with Eritrea after Qatar withdrew its peacekeeping troops 2 weeks ago. Speaking at the summit in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, Djibouti Foreign Minister Mahmoud Ali Yusuf said the Qatari forces leaving at such short notice had not been in the best interest of both countries. The European Union on Monday launched its election observation mission for the general elections in Kenya, due to take place on the 8th of August. On Sunday, President Kenyatta met with members of the mission in Nairobi. In a statement, he said all the institutions involved in ensuring the elections are conducted smoothly had done their part, and that the elections will not be interfered with, as Kenyans are entitled to freely exercise their democratic right.
A lot has changed since previous elections that have left scars. The new constitution seeks to ensure a balance of power, the inclusion of minorities, and it sees, quote, public participation as a value, end of quote, and includes important provisions on the inclusion of women. It will be a key moment to see how the provisions foreseen in the constitution will play out in practice. It is no secret that there are concerns about the possible outbreak of violence. This is not inevitable, and it is clear that it would create a situation where everybody loses. There is a responsibility for each and everybody to grant each other the right and safety to vote according to his or her conscience. But this responsibility grows in proportion to the influence different actors have over the 2017 elections. It is in turn our responsibility as the EU Election Observation Mission to make an honest and impartial assessment of the integrity of the process and the extent to which people's political rights are upheld. The fact that the EU has sought to deploy such a large mission is testimony to the significance of the August 8th elections.
Sudan will extend a unilateral ceasefire with rebels until the end of October. This according to a decree by President Omar Hassan al-Bashir, said on Sunday. The announcement comes 2 weeks before the United States plans to lift a 20-year-old trade embargo against the country. On January the 13th, the US said it would lift the embargo, but would wait 180 days before doing so in order to monitor Sudan's actions towards further improving its human rights record and resolving ongoing conflicts. President al-Bashir extended the ceasefire, which had been in place since October 2016, for 6 months in response to this. The US then agreed to unfreeze Sudanese assets and lift financial sanctions as a response to the government's cooperation in fighting Islamic State and other militant groups. An Egyptian court on Sunday upheld the death penalty for 20 men charged with killing policemen in the violence that followed the military ousting of then-President Mohamed Morsi in 2013. The case, involving 156 people, is known as the Kadessa incident. The court also changed the sentences for many others to hefty prison terms. The verdicts can again be appealed. Gunmen fired rocket-propelled grenades at a police station in Kadessa on August 14, 2013, and slit a policeman's throat before burning the building down. The attack occurred hours after security forces had violently dispersed 2 protest camps, killing hundreds. A roadside bomb struck a minibus north of the Somali capital, Mogadishu, late on Saturday, killing 2 people and injuring 6 others. Police say there was no immediate claim of responsibility, although the Islamist group Al-Shabaab has carried out regular attacks on officials, government offices and civilian sites. Also in Somalia, the Norwegian Refugee Council says more than 700 people have died from cholera in the worst outbreak of the disease in 5 years. The Council also says South Sudan is reporting an unprecedented number of cholera cases, recording more than 160 deaths. This time last year, there were no reports of cholera deaths. Conflict in Somalia and Sudan are said to have ruined health sectors and public water and sanitation networks. At least 15 people have been killed in the Central African Republic following an exchange of fire between UN peacekeepers and fighters from the Central African Patriotic Movement rebel group. The incident took place on Saturday in the remote northern town of Kagabandoro, where there's been a surge in violence in the last month. Also on Saturday, several hundred Central Africans, mainly from the cities of Bria and Bangassou, held a peaceful demonstration in the capital to demand peace and justice. The regions have seen a number of violent incidences in recent weeks.
They are the national of region number 6, that is to say, the Lower Koto, the Mbumu and the Upper Mbumu, and all the Central African of goodwill who wanted to join us. For any lasting reconciliation, we want it to have justice, we want it to have peace, we want it to be safe, we do not want the division of our country.
We are very angry. We did not know about the war or the killings before. But in Region 6, and precisely in Bangassou, where I was originally from, all my family is on the other side of the river. It is as if people are the victims of Ebola. They are all sick. They have no peace. But we are asking the government to send the army to Region 6 for the defense of our people. We are very angry. That is why we're demonstrating.
Burundi celebrated its 55th anniversary of independence on Saturday in the capital, Bujumbura. The East African nation gained independence from Belgian colonial rule on July 1st, 1962. Before the First World War, it had been colonized by Germany. President Pierre Nkurunziza on Saturday urged the country's former colonizers to pay compensation for damages caused during the colonial rule. During his address at Saturday's celebrations, he stated that Germany and Belgium should admit to and apologize for atrocities made on Burundi and its people during colonial rule and compensate them. The theme of this year's Independence Day was unity and peace building are the right way to independence consolidation.
We had independence before the arrival of the colonizers. Upon their arrival, they took it away. It is by fighting that we took back our independence. We weren't given it, we had it. It was stolen from us, then we got it back. Our ancestors who fought for independence are no longer living. Consequently, the fight is to protect and to strengthen our independence. It is yours as well as ours.
Now, painted human billboards have become a fixture at traffic junctions in Liberia's capital. The unique form of advertising is gaining traction with companies that use them to promote everything from government agencies to brides-to-be. Let's take a look in our next report.
Human billboards on the street corner in Liberia's capital, Monrovia. Body painting kicked off in the early 90s with football maskers covering themselves in the colors of the national flag. The trend inspired entrepreneurs who spotted a niche in the market.
It is something that I started seeing.
This is something that I started in December 2013. It's an idea that just came all of a sudden, and to my utmost surprise, it's come this far.
Emmanuel's advertising firm employs 35 people, most working as human statues. His company charges $50 for a 5-hour shift, with clients ranging from government agencies to brides-to-be. It's sweltering work but provides an income to Liberia's unemployed youth.
If there's nothing happening, you can start stealing and doing all kinds of things. So you just have to start doing something. So we started this thing, started struggling from 2015, and here we are this time with a good result.
Now, even political parties are using body art to attract voters. The trend has changed the face of advertising here and is also tapping into social media.
Just imagine a football game at a stadium, the number of people that are there. Once you have 2 or 3 of those guys there, people come and see them and take pictures with them and put them on social media.
Liberia has a long history of using body paint for religious and community rituals. And having adapted to the modern world, the phenomenon shows no sign of fading.
On the eve of the G5 Sahel summit, several thousand Malians defied a ban by authorities and took to the streets of Bamako to demonstrate against a draft revision of the country's constitution. If approved, the amendments proposed by President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta would see an increase in presidential powers, among other changes. The referendum, which was due to be held on July the 9th, has been postponed following fierce opposition. A new date has not yet been announced.
As long as there is no withdrawal from the constitutional revision, we will be here. They do not really want to give us permission, but we will continue. Nothing will stop us. We simply want the constitutional revision to be withdrawn altogether. We are not even able to make this country safe. Why do we want to touch the Constitution while Section 118 tells us not to touch the Constitution as long as our territorial integrity is threatened? Today, we know that the army is not even present, not only in Kidal, but the army is also not in Tessalit. The army is not in Abalabra. The army is not in Menaka. There is not even power in those areas. Are the inhabitants of these areas not part of Mali? Should they not be involved in the process of changing of the constitution?
We are not going to believe that he wants to run for office. He wants to stay in power constantly. Or when he leaves, he wants to put one of his relatives in. He said Mali first, but he betrayed the Malian people. We do not agree with this. Article 118 is untouchable. We do not agree with the people from IBK, because with the government of IBK, they will rob us. When we choose no, we know that we will not have a no. we are going to have 90 or 85% of yes because they are going to steal it from us. That's why we're asking for the withdrawal, pure and simple.
I came this morning to defend the 1991 Constitution just for that. The regime in place wants to modify this regime and we don't agree. These are reforms they have made through the back door. Normally everyone should have been called and should be able to sit down and discuss what needs to change and what doesn't, but they are making changes without the masses, without the people.
Well, we're heading into a short break, but still to come on tonight's programme. Tunisians fight industrial pollution with a protest. 18 people are feared dead following a bus crash in Germany. And it's off to the races in magical style in Durban.